Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Conservative Corner. I'm Elliot Margolis. I'm here with my co-host Gail Burke, and our special guest today is Ty Vitale. Ty is running for a state representative against Jerry Paracella, who, by the way, was asked to come on and has refused to come on the show. So, Ty, welcome, and we got a bunch of questions for you. The question number one gets me cranky, okay? I'm cranky because if we drive to Boston, we pay a toll. But if people from the South Shore go to Boston, they don't. So we're paying for the bridge, they're getting a free ride. Why?
Well, I don't really know why. There's really no answer to that question. It should be fair. And that's one of the reasons that I'm running, is that I'm looking for fairness in all of this stuff. Whether it's your property taxes, whether it's your, income taxes that go to the state, sales taxes, it just needs to be fair. And what you just described is just simply not fair. It needs to be equal.
Well, I did ask that question of your opponent, and he said, well, the federal government doesn't want us to charge any more taxes, any more tolls. First of all, that's a bunch of baloney. The federal government wants as much of our money as they can. But I wasn't even asking for another toll to be set up. I was saying, take the Mystic Bridge one, the Tobin Bridge one down. We don't need the money. We got plenty of money. But no, we have to pay, and one of the excuses, again, I heard was, well, the South Shore has more state representatives, so therefore they have more power. So, in other words, you don't work with people in order to do something that's fair for everybody?
Yeah, the current legislature does not do things fairly. They do not work with other people. It's a one-party state. Right now there are 160 state representatives, and 24 of them, I believe, are Republicans. The rest are all Democrats. They do what they're told, and they do what they want.
Key question, they do what they're told. So in other words, they don't have to think on their own. They're told what to do.
That's absolutely right.
And they follow like lemmings.
Okay, Gail, I'll give you a chance for a question.
Thank you very much. Well, my big thing is voter ID. And this, of course, gets into the illegal immigrants and so on and so forth. I still don't understand how the states refuse, and the federal government refuse to have the voter ID. When you get on an airplane, you need an ID.
Cash a check, you need an ID.
Cash a check, you need an ID. You open a bank account, you need an ID. And yet, Massachusetts and many other states don't require an ID. So if you were part of the Massachusetts legislature, how would you propose to mandate voter ID in Massachusetts?
So there are a lot of 160 legislatures, like I said. The problem is that the legislature passes these laws, and then, and the people are upset about them, right? So then next thing you know, voter ID. How many times we put it on the ballot to overturn what the legislature has done, right? So then it gets, then it goes before the people, and the people overturn it, or they don't overturn it, I should say. So really, it's really difficult if the will of the people is going to continue to say, no, we don't need voter ID.
But don't you think, and I know this happens with a lot of the ballot questions, I think we have 5 on the November ballot, and I was reading through them, and they're written by lawyers. I mean, who else can understand the language?
Well, that's what they do. They do it so you can't understand.
Exactly. And sometimes you should be voting no because you believe in something, but the way they word it, you have to vote yes
Well,
in order to overturn something,
when I go to vote,
or vice versa.
I show my ID. They say you don't have to.
Yeah.
I says, okay, I'm this person right here. Because they don't know me.
Yeah.
How do they know whether that's me or not?
Right. Yeah.
You know, and it's time more people did that. I'm this person, okay? You don't have to show an ID.
Yeah, you don't have to show an ID, and people are upset about it. Right? I'm upset about it. You're upset about it. I think everyone is upset about it because it is just such a common sense thing to do.
Yeah.
Common sense. You know, I want to buy a beer. I have to show my ID. Period. You know, I want to vote. I should have to show my ID. It's easy. It's simple. We pay so many tax dollars to the city clerk. Just that goes to the people that are actually running the votes. Right? We have 110 poll workers, right? We pay them $250 each for the day to do the thing. We're spending all this money. The poll workers, there's 110 of them. They could easily check ID. There's absolutely no excuse for it. We need that. But like I said, the issue is, and it's very, very frustrating to me, like take this gun law that passed, for example. The legislature passes this gun law, they push it through because they have a supermajority in the House. Now it's up to us, right, the Republicans and and independents and gun owners, whatever. We have to get 57,000 signatures now. I'm going to go down to Shaw's next week and try to do my part and get as many as I can. But it's just this whole, while I should be out campaigning, luckily I can put a sign out, my sign, and also talk to people and kind of do it in that sort of way. But there's absolutely no reason that our legislators shouldn't be doing this in the first place. Don't pass a crazy law like this
What
to
does the
force
law
us to do the
say?
work.
Tell
I was gonna
everybody
say
what the
that.
law
Yeah.
says.
So the law is essentially just limiting your capacity to have a firearm without, without really any due process. I'm running on a constitutional platform, and the Second Amendment just does not allow for that, and we just shouldn't have to go back and overturn the legislature stuff over and over and over again.
Okay, now, the state legislature is a part-time job. I'm told they have to be in Boston 1 day a week. The question is, if it's a part-time job, who gets full-time pay and full-time benefits? That's a pretty good deal, plus a per diem. So you get paid for going to work. How many of you out there get paid for going to work? Is there something you can do about that? I understand if you win, you'll get the full-time pay, you'll get all the benefits, but is that right to the taxpayer?
I don't think so. So in New Hampshire, for example, they have state reps, and there are 542 of them. Right? Guess how much each one gets paid?
$100.
$100. Good guess. Right?
you.
So that's all right. Yeah, so you do that one, right? They get $100 for doing that because it's a volunteer position, right? And in Massachusetts, okay, I get it. If you're working full time, then you need to, if your full-time job is being a legislator, I get it. You need to get paid because inflation and whatnot, and you need to live, right? But if it's a part-time job, then you can do it for $100 because you're doing it for the people, and that's what I'm running for. I'm running for the people. What you also didn't mention, right, as far as the payments that these legislators get. So I think it's $75,000 a year or so, plus another $20,000 a year for a travel stipend or something like that. In addition to that, they get, what do they call it, a bonus for being part of the, what's it called? Essentially a bonus if you're the head of a committee or something like that. So, I know Jerry gets another $40,000 on top of all that.
For
when it's
being
all said
head
and
of a
done.
committee.
For being the head of a committee or something.
How many
like that.
Republicans are head of committees?
Yeah, exactly. Well, so that's the problem, right? They call it a leadership role. If you're in a leadership role, you
okay.
get this extra stipend. So that's the problem, because that's just an extra layer of control that the Democrats have. Because if you're getting this $40,000 and they say, hey, we don't want you to be a leader anymore because you're not doing what we want, you're going to lose your 40 grand. You're going to be, if you're in it for the money, you're going to be taking that leadership role and doing exactly what you're told to do. And it's just not right.
Maybe what we should all do as citizens, we should go down to Mexico and then come back across the border and come in as illegals. And we would be doing very well if that was the case. It boggles my mind how well the illegals, which means they're breaking the law by coming across the border into our country, how well they get treated. And especially being given driver's licenses. In Massachusetts, there were more than 128,000 newly licensed drivers in the past year. 128,000. Do we know if they all have insurance? No, we don't know that. We know they get into accidents sometimes and they don't have insurance. And plus, once you get your driver's license, you're registered to vote.
So what I would cage that in a different way, right? I would say that they're not getting treated better. You're getting mistreated, right? We're paying
Okay.
we're paying the taxes,
Yeah.
right? And then so we should and I think a lot of this comes down to community, So I'm paying the taxes, and or forget about taxes, right? Let's just say there are no taxes, right? And my neighbor needs something. He loses his job. He needs whatever. My community is going to come together for my neighbor, and I hope they would do the same for me, right? So what's happening is we're paying taxes to the government, and then the government is taking them and giving them to paying people for votes, essentially, from them. So it's you're being mistreated, and everybody's mistreating, because you're not doing these illegals any favors by letting them come into the country. It's mistreating them as well.
But they're better off coming into this country than where they were, so better they should be working to make their country better.
Absolutely.
But
And not all of
things
them
there.
are coming in for asylum. Some are coming in for asylum, but many are not, as we can see by the gangs that are taking over in different communities throughout the country. And the innocent people who are being murdered and raped and whatever.
And sex trafficking and all that.
Exactly.
They're bringing all of these.
So the question is now, most legislators, or a high percentage, are lawyers. Question is, what part of illegal don't lawyers understand? Because they're giving illegals money, taking it from us. And one particular example is education. Look what's happening to our education system. We are hurting our own citizens and kids in the schools because we're spending more money on illegals than we are on the kids that have been here and their parents are paying taxes. We have to adjust that. And one suggestion is, before they can come into the school, how about learning English?
Yeah, correct. I remember talking about this when I was growing up, and I went to Danvers High School and whatnot, and I had a great civics teacher. And I remember, and essentially what they say is it wasn't so specific. They had to assimilate, is essentially what I'm getting at, right? They had to assimilate, which includes, speaking English and just learning the culture and fitting in and whatnot. You have to conform to where you are.
When in Rome.
When in Rome, exactly. So what's happening now is just the opposite of that. They're setting up their own gangs, and they're getting welfare, and they don't have to work. When my grandparents came, I was always told, you've got to work. If you want anything, you've got to work. You've got to work.
And you want them to come in and assimilate, and you also expect them to keep some of their own culture. These different cultures are wonderful, whether it be food, music, clothing, whatever it happens to be. So, but you're in America now. And this is what we do in America. And if you can't conform to that, or you don't want to follow our laws, then get out. You do not belong here.
Correct.
We're also paying the price in medical care.
Yeah.
The emergency rooms are full. You have to wait hours and hours and hours. How about getting a doctor's appointment? You have to wait months to get a doctor's appointment. Hospitals are closing because they can't keep up with the burden of millions and millions of new people coming in and requiring their services.
One way to solve the education problem, in my opinion, would be to have English as the official language of this country. So therefore, you don't, if you don't speak English, you got to learn to speak English first. Would you sponsor such a bill?
Yeah, I think that it just makes perfect sense. I would sponsor a bill like that. So I lived overseas. I lived in Dubai for 7 years, and it was they had a big immigration problem. A lot of people from the Philippines and India and different places coming and just staying there. They would overstay their visa and whatnot. And on the radio every day, I remember it happened. I lived there for 7 years, so maybe like 3-4 years in, I started taking note. And on the radio every day they would have just play a song, and then the commercial would be, hey, if you're here illegally, please come and turn yourself in, and we'll you can go back to your country, and no problem, but after such and such a date, if we find you, then you're going to be in trouble, and we're going to put you in jail, and and there's going to be a lot of issues. So there are certain ways to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if in Dubai, the official language was Arabic and English. So almost everybody spoke English. And it just worked. You didn't have to get that new language and whatnot. But, I went to Saudi Arabia a couple of times, and that was just not a great place with, nobody, you were essentially nothing to them if you went there. You were, if you didn't speak Arabic or anything, it just didn't even matter. They just went around you.
Well, that's it. It's hurting the kids that we have in school now. They're being held back because you got to spend too much time with people that don't speak English. Mm-hmm. That's not fair to our kids.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, you need that. There needs to be a common language and whatnot. I mean, why not have 2 high schools? We could put we're in Beverly High School right now. We could put another one across the street, and we could have all Spanish people over there and English people here, right? It's just not feasible. I mean, it would be nice, but it's just not feasible. There's not enough money. We can't afford it, and that's the crux of pretty much all of this stuff. It's just affordability. You can only pay so much in taxes. I can only pay so much in taxes. The government can't afford this.
Well, it's because one of the major reasons is because there are so many illegals. We can't handle this influx. You mentioned your grandfather when he came to this country. We had quotas, so many from this country, so many from that country. They had to go through Ellis Island at one point, and they couldn't have any diseases because they would be sent back. Now, people are flooding across the borders. We don't even know what diseases they have. What we do know is we're seeing measles come back. We had eradicated measles. Smallpox. We had totally eradicated smallpox. All kinds of things are coming. And we're going to pay the price for it because we're not vetting them. We're certainly not vetting them in Massachusetts either. This governor seems to welcome everyone. I remember not too long ago where she was asking people to please find room in your homes for these people.
Yeah, except for her home.
Except for her home. Yep. How are you going to invite strangers to live with you in your home? You don't know them, you don't know their background, don't even know where they really came from. It's ludicrous. Mm-hmm. So what do? They put veterans out on the street and house them in hotels. and other places.
What do you think of charter schools?
Yeah, I'm for charter schools. Yeah.
So, see, what I see with charter schools is that they have discipline. Gail and I have been to charter schools, and we've seen kids raise their hand. They have respect for the teachers.
They have chairs and desks,
Yeah.
and they sit at them.
But they're there to learn,
And they learn.
And there's more. Most charter schools have a waiting list to get in. Why do you think that is? You know, perhaps because they're non-union, and that's why the Democrats don't want them. I want education for our kids.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I don't understand it. It just makes perfect sense to me. It's common sense. Why not just
Well,
have
that's
charter
the key.
schools, right? And
Common sense.
yeah, the problem with charter schools that I could see, just from a taxpayer's perspective, is I'm already paying for the Beverly school system, right? And you know, inflation, everything is so expensive. I'm you know, not some millionaire. I don't have any kids, but I'm paying for the Beverly school system anyway. So if I wanted to get a better education for my child, I'm paying double. I'm paying for the charter school, right? This is my
well, charter
understanding.
schools are public schools.
Oh, charter schools are also public schools?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that money is coming from the state legislature. But they're not union like Beverly's school system is all union. Unions don't like competition.
Yeah.
And
See-
even though with the charter schools, they come from a lower socioeconomic portion of the city. As a matter of fact, the charter school that Elliot and I visited happens to be in Malden. And it encompasses, I think, 7 different communities: Malden, Melrose, Medford, and I forget the others. But they have a bare bones school system because they don't have all the money that the regular public schools have. So there's nothing fancy, but their scores and what they're learning and how they're learning. We even went into a couple classrooms where the teacher was in charge, and the regular public schools have very small classes. I think the number is up to 23 is all they can have. In these classes, there were 35, 36, like when I went to school. That's what we learned in.
So that's the problem.
That's the problem. But we learned. We learned a lot of things that we needed to know before we graduated. That's not happening. They know all about feelings. They know all about sex and changing
Kids can't
transgender.
do math, they can't do English, they can't do anything, but they can get promoted.
So what's the argument against charter schools? I just
Competition.
they just don't want competition with Beverly High, for
Well,
example.
With any city,
With the big,
it's,
right.
the unions
Yeah.
don't want the competition.
And-
Because
and-
what competition makes you better, and it makes you more responsible. Okay, and if more and more people want to go to charter schools, what happens to these public schools? They have to get better to get people
Yeah.
to come back.
Right. So
It's called school
So,
choice.
right. So to say it again, so what's the if the argument is competition, right? So what's the argument
Yeah.
against competition?
It's the unions.
Right?
They don't
We're
want
all
it.
agreeing that
don't
competition
want
is what we
competition.
want.
The unions are the culprit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the unions don't want competition, so
Right.
they're essentially going to disenfranchise people with charter schools. Right?
Right.
They would rather have a poorer education system
Yeah, well,
than
yeah.
than
That's
have a
correct.
better education
Well,
system.
they put a
be
cap
created,
on.
right?
On the
They-
number of charter schools
Unions
in
would lose control,
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
and they don't want to lose
They
control.
want control. Right?
Yep.
Exactly.
I've asked union people to come on to the show, they won't come on.
No.
So, one of the cornerstones of my campaign that I'm trying to sort of build and get across is the government, right? Our local government. They're not doing what we want them to do with our tax dollars, and a lot of it comes down to competition, right? So if we have our city clerks and whatnot, we need them to do certain services. They're not doing those services because they don't have any competition. They don't have to, right? So if you go to Walmart or something, they have competition, right? They're going to start driving prices down. Walmart and Target and fighting to get your tax dollar,
Right.
Or not just to get your spending dollar, right? The government gets your tax dollars, and they don't have to give you a great product, right? I'm asking for public records requests, and I'm getting these legal letters telling me why I can't get it.
I hate to interrupt you,
Yes.
but our time is almost up.
Okay.
So we'll give you 2 minutes to give you a final spiel about what your campaign is all about.
Sure. Yeah. So, what am I going to look over there? There we go. Hey, how you doing, Beverly? Nice to see
Good
you.
night, Cameron.
My name is Ty Vitale. I'm running for state representative in 6 Essex. It's Beverly and part of Wenham. I'm running on a lot of issues, but essentially I'm looking to bring a little accountability to the State House. The State House right now is 160 state reps, and I think maybe 24 are Republicans. So the Democrats have a supermajority. So I would like to just try to bring a little more sensibility to the State House. If we could get it closer to a 50-50, then we could have some real debate and maybe affect some real change. And I'd really love it if you would vote for me. And if you need anything from me, whether I win or lose, I'm happy. I'm here for you. My phone number is 978-394-5648. You can call me anytime, and I will be happy to do what I can to affect any change in your life.
Do you
Thank
have a website?
Oh, and my website is tyvitale.net.
Thank you, Ty.
Yeah,
We've
thank
enjoyed
you.
meeting you and listening to you. I think our voters are getting a more in-depth idea as to what you and other candidates are running on. We hope to bring you more because we do have an election coming up in November. And we want to thank our viewers, our loyal viewers, especially because we try to provide you with common sense ideas and people who have common sense who are running in Massachusetts. So I hope you'll continue watching, and thank you. See you soon.